Hi guys, it's Becky, and I am going to be working on project number 4 for my beaded chain challenge for the month of September. And if you haven't been on my channel yet or you're new for this, what I'm doing is it's just a personal challenge that I came up with that I wanted to make 2 beaded chain necklaces each week for the month of September. And as far as like how you're counting a week, that's going to be up to you. Like each person that does it, because it's a personal challenge, there's no real rules, like you can have one beaded link in like just a sea chain. You can have like nothing but beaded links in all of your things. You can have your links don't have to necessarily be made out of metal. They can be made out of other things too. But it's just a challenge that I came up with because I really enjoy making beaded chains, and I wanted to just have some fun and challenge myself to come up with new, not necessarily new things, but things that maybe I haven't done a lot of or I haven't done before. And it's a good way just to expand my creativity, to give myself some parameters to fit into. So for my own brain, I've been counting my week from Sunday to Saturday. So by that reckoning, there has already been 1 week, and I finished that and did the first 2 of my 2 a week already. But if you're counting from like the 1st of September to the 7th of September, that's also a week. That works for you. Again, it's a personal challenge, and if you're joining with me, you can count your weeks however you want to. I'm not I'm not going to be a Nazi about these rules or anything like that, because I mean, you know, art doesn't have a ton of rules, and jewelry making is art. So this will be project number 4. I have started a playlist that I'm adding each of these videos to. So I will link that into the comments below if you'd like to see some of my other projects that I've done. And also, so you can get more of an idea about what the beaded chain challenges is all about, if you'd like to still join, because you know what? Maybe you're going to start today instead of the 1st of September. No rules, no rules. Anyway, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to be making a beaded chain, and instead of going through a bead box or something like that, I thought I would pull something different out. And this is a bag of beads that was in amongst my aunt's beading things that I inherited after she passed. And I've spoken a little bit about her on my channel when I took one of her pendants and I added a wire woven bail and put it on some silver silk as kind of a tribute to her. And I'll link to that video too, so you can learn a little bit more about my aunt, but I'll also talk about her some today too. She was an artist. She did art. Part of her art was beading and jewelry, and one of my main motivations for learning more beading, after just doing, making earrings and a couple of necklaces for a while, was that after she passed, my cousin had said, I'm just going to be getting rid of all of her jewelry making stuff. Do you want it? And I said, yeah, I'll take it. And so I have that. And I know I had a big organization project that I did. I haven't gone through her things necessarily to organize them and have them find places yet. So that's going to be another project that I'm going to be going through, my aunt's things, and I'll probably be bringing some of those things out into future videos as well. But again, this is just a little baggie of beads that I found amongst her beading things, and they are a gorgeous, gorgeous shade of purple with like kind of an AB finish on them that gives them these pinky vibes. And it looks like what this was a necklace, a strung necklace that was strung on, this is just like, feels like cotton string, and which is probably why it broke. But it looks like It was just an old necklace that my aunt had bought and meant to turn into something else, because that was something that she did. She would find old jewelry and she would take it apart and she'd turn it into something else. So I'm going to take this old jewelry that she started to take apart and I'm going to turn it into something else. And I'm going to use some rose gold craft wire so that we can keep that soft kind of romantic feel to this whole necklace. And I'm using 20 gauge wire for this. And for my links, there's a type of link that, like, the first time I saw it, I was kind of amazed. And then the closer I looked at it, I realized that it was sort of easy to do, and it was kind of something that I could do, but I wanted to get more consistent with my loops before I did it. I did my first one like it last month with the Moroccan bazaar kit, but I don't think I filmed that one. So this will be me doing this. And what it is when you have a link like this, a beaded link, like one end is kind of a normal link, but then the other one is larger. So you end up with kind of this large like circle of chain between your beaded links. And so I'm going to show you how to make each of these different links real quick. And then we'll make a focal with these beads and the wire. So I went ahead and I had already made 2 lengths of beaded chain with this. There were so many beads in that baggie, you guys, so many beads. I'm going to be able to make more projects with these beads that I got from my Aunt Loma. But that's basically how it works. You know, with a regular beaded chain, you've got kind of the same size loop at both ends, and it's just an outsized loop. So that's the reason why I waited a while until I made my first one, was because I wanted to be more consistent with my sizing, with my wrapping, and with doing all of that. And so to assist in a more consistent size, I am using the 6-step bell making pliers for these. I'll be using the largest and the smallest loops on these. You can make this with other types of tools if you do not have bell making pliers, or you don't have like the 6-step ones or something like that. You can use something that is going to be a consistent size and shape, like a Sharpie for one of your loops, and then use some round nose pliers for the other one. You can do that as long as you can get one bigger size loop and one smaller loop. You can make this necklace. And it's not that hard to do. So basically what happens is you do the loop, and for this project, the larger loop I'm doing is a wrapped loop so that it doesn't deform as you're wearing it. And then the smaller loop I'm using a simple loop for, so that I can open and close it after I've made my links, instead of having to link it and then wrap it and link it and then wrap it. It just made it easier for me to kind of make all of my links first and then put these two links together. So let me show you how I make the link. And for my tools, by the way, I already told you we're using the 6-step bell making pliers. I've got some chain nose pliers and some flush cutters. When I do my pendant, my focal that I'm going to be making with some of this, I am going to be using my round nose pliers for part of that. Anyway, so let's get some of this out, and I'll show you how I make my links. And I'm just going to work off the spool. I really prefer working off the spool when I'm making multiple links like this. And I'm just using my fingers to straighten out this wire real quick. Let's scooch in a little closer. And I like to pre-string my beads onto it. You don't have to. There's no like hard and fast rule. You can just guesstimate how much wire to cut off when you get to cutting it off. But you're going to want about 2.5 to 3 inches of wire at the start. And this is where you're going to want to make your first bend in your wire for your loop. And then I'm going to take my 6-step bail making pliers and I'm going to use my largest loop. I'm going to set that on top of my right angle there and bend the wire around it. Rotate my pliers around to the front like that so it's flat over this and keep it going so it's bent that way. And I like to wrap while it's still on my bail making pliers. You don't have to if this is awkward and weird and it gets in the way. But I'm just using my fingers to push the wire around. And now that I've got my wrapped loop, I can cut off my little nubbly end here. And for this, you can either grab a hammer and just hammer this slightly, gently, or I'm just going to take my pliers here and give it a gentle squish. Well, not really gentle, but a bit of a squish to flatten it out and to kind of work hard in this circle. And I'm not going to squish here where the wires cross over. I'm being careful not to squish there. I'm just going to use my pliers for this. And that makes that loop a little bit stronger. Then I'm going to push my bead up next to it. And you can either bend this here or cut it first. If I cut it first right here, then I can bend this. And what I want to do is I want my loop, my small simple loop, I want the direction of the circle to be perpendicular to the direction of this circle. So if I'm looking at it this way, I want my loop to come towards me. If I'm looking at it from the side, I want this loop to look like a circle above. So to do that, first I'm going to bend my wire away from this. And I'm going to measure it, and it's about 1 centimeter away from there. Then I'm going to take my smallest loop on my 6-step bail making pliers, and you can use your, I usually for this type of loop, for the simple loop, I prefer the my round nose pliers, but for consistency's sake in loop size, I am using my bail making pliers. And you're basically going to be just turning it so that it meets the other side here. And that is the link. I don't know what this style chain is called. If anybody knows what this is called, let me know. I just know that like the first time I saw it, I was amazed, and I love, love, love the look of it. All right, so this is going to be my main connector point between my 2 strands of chain that I've already made and my focal. So I'm going to show you how I connect them. You basically take your simple loop, swing it open by twisting to the side, pop on the large side of your link and close it. It's super simple, super easy to do. And because this is a connection point between my two lengths of chain, I'm going to do the same thing with my second chain. I'm going to attach it to this link here. And I'll show you closure after we do our focal, our pendant. All right, so the focal is going to be a little more complicated than this. Like it's such a simple chain, but it has such a great impact. I love this style of chain. So that's going to be where my focal will dangle from. I'm going to move this out of the way. And let's pull out some of these beads. I think I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 of these. All right. So we're going to take this, let me scooch out a bit so you can see me pulling off my wire. I'm going to grab just a ton of wire, actually. Let's see, this is about 12 inches. My tray is about 12 inches. So I'm just going to grab 2 lengths of my tray for about 24 inches of wire. Now, I may not need all of this, but I want to have it as an option for this endeavor. All right, now I'm just gonna kind of off camera so I'm not hitting it. I'm gonna go ahead and just straighten this out with my fingers over here. You can imagine this if you want to. All right, here we go. But yeah, my aunt did a lot of bead weaving, so I've got tons of seed beads of hers, but she also did metal smithing, which is not something that I have started yet, and it's probably not going to be something that I spend a lot of time doing. All right, so for design consistency's sake, I'm going to start near the end of this, and I'm going to make a large loop just like these links have. And then from there, we'll build down for the rest of this focal for that. So I'm going to about 2.5 or 3 inches down from the end, give myself a little bend. I'm going to take my largest loop on my bail making pliers. Going to bend that around, rotate my pliers around, bend this over this way, and swing that end of the wire around the core. I'm just going to go over that a couple times. And you see it looks just like the loop on the other links that I did. But this is going to be a focal and not a link. So we have just a crap ton of wire all the way around here. What I'm going to do with this right now is about that far down from this. I'm going to bend this around, and this circle is going to go run parallel to this circle. So if you look at them from the side, they're both going to disappear, but if you look at them from the front, they're both going to be going around like this. And now that I've got that bent there, I'm going to string on the beads that I'm using for this. I'm going to go find my end and pop these suckers on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm just gonna, yep, they are. They're 8mm, by the way. I've got little sizing guides here on this bead mat, which I know I always get questions about my bead mats that I'm using, so I will put a link to the 2 components that I made this bead mat out of, because it's not just a bead mat, it's also glued to this bamboo tray for portability. And the tray is rather heavy, so it doesn't actually like flip over or something if you accidentally jostle it. It's actually one of my things that I like to bead on when I'm not sitting at my desk. But yeah, I'll do links for that, the 2 components, the mat and the bamboo tray, in case you wanted to get one of these too. And when I did my video on beading surfaces, I mentioned that I don't enjoy beading on hard surfaces, and this is felt instead of that soft like velour kind of feel fabric. And this is about the hardest surface that I will bead off of, is this felt. I don't like doing seed bead weaving on this because the needle always catches in the felt when I do this. So it'll be like regular beading that I do with this, or wire working when I'm using this. Anyway, back to what I'm doing. So I've got this on here. I'm just going to bend this around carefully and slowly. And you can guide it after it's come together. But I want to bring this end up here to meet here. Let me just scooch this a little bit closer in. It's kind of teardrop shaped. You can leave it as a teardrop actually. Maybe I'll do teardrop. I was gonna do a circle, but kind of like the teardrop look. All right, but I want to give myself a little bit of wiggle room between the beads, so I'm not going to have it be super tight. Let me get this a little bend right here. And I'm just pinching the back of this and here between my fingers while I bend my wire around. There we go. So I still have a little bit of play between my beads, and that is exactly what I want because I'm going to be wrapping the rest of this like ginormous strand of wire around these beads. Actually, let's call this one the front. So I'm pinching this part and this part between my fingers, and I'm pushing this bead with this finger. I'm just going to wrap the wire around this bead this way. And then I'm going to feed my end through here. Maybe. Go slow so it doesn't kink. All right. Oop, that is not close enough. There we go. And then around to the other wire this way. And I'm going diagonally across the wires. And this pendant will have a definite front and back. My front is going to be where the wire crosses in front of for decorative purposes. And the next one, and I'm pushing with my finger this bead while I'm holding this flat with both of these fingers, just so I'm not deforming my teardrop. But each time I go around, I'm going to be kind of pushing this through. And that is not close enough. There we go. And I'm just going to wrap all the way around each of these beads till I get back up to the top. Put my wire through. So yeah, this type of beading necklace, like the actual links, they don't take that long to make. Most of the time on this video is going to be spent on this. All right, let's go through here again. But yeah, my aunt was great at beading. My grandma did a lot of seed beading and bead weaving. So, you know, I come by this honestly. I really do. And I think I actually had great uncle, my grandma's brother, and his partner, they won awards in like the 50s, I think, for their bead weaving projects. Mom, keep me honest in the comments, please. I'd like to know if I'm telling fibs about the family. But yeah, again, I'll come by it honestly. We have a whole family thing about jewelry making. All right. Which makes it kind of cool. But you see how it wraps in front, and then from behind you can't see all of the wire, which is why this is going to be the front of it. And again, it's going to keep kind of that romantic feel with the rose gold wire and the purple beads. And now this is my last one. So I'm going to go ahead and go through here, and the wire is going to pop between these two. All right. I'm going to do a couple of wraps around here just to finish this off. And now, right here in the front, let me straighten this out. I'm going to do some spiraling. So I spiraled here, I'm going to spiral here, and I'm just going to keep spiraling for the rest of the day. Spiraling into oblivion, into darkness. No, that's not what we're doing today. We are just going to have some fun. And I'm going to make a little spiral to go right here in the center of this with this wire. All right. And let's just make this spiral as big as it wants to be. I'm going to take the very tip of my wire right here, and I'm going to grasp it with my round nose pliers. This is why I pulled my round nose pliers out. And I'm going to bend this around as tight as it can go. And as I'm bending this, I'm kind of pushing it into my finger. Sorry. And now I'm going to switch from round nose pliers to my regular chain nose pliers, and I'm going to grip my little circle here and bend this around. And, you know, a little bit at a time. But yeah, spiraling. This is fun. It's a great way to spend your Saturday morning, right? Anyway. Yeah, this has been a fun challenge so far. Next week, I am going to be doing a bead woven link component that I'll be showing you guys. Bead weaving isn't that scary. I avoided it for a long time. And it wasn't until after my aunt passed that I started actually deciding, well, I guess I'd better learn how to do this since I have all of these seed beads and other beads that she would do bead weaving. But she did bead embroidery too, which is not a rabbit hole that I'm ready to go down yet. Just to let you know, when I got married, the first time my mom had found this dress in a thrift shop that she recut and retailored to be, you know, more current. And then my aunt had redone all of the bead embroidery on it, and it was just absolutely gorgeous at the end of that. Once they were both done with it, it was really, really cool that they could both contribute to that like that. All right. I'm trying to give myself some space between the coils so that it's not a super tight coil. I want it to be spirally and not a super tight coil. So I'm leaving this space on purpose. Because we've got some room down here. I can tighten it up if I need to. Once we get in here, I'm just using my fingers now as we get a little bit closer. And I'm okay if I've got these little weird bumps. I like a wonky spiral, you know, like you always used to see in the Scooby-Doo intros. You know what I'm talking about. The wonky spiral things. All right. Now I'm going to bend this over here in the front. Let's get this bent down so that it is hanging in front where I want it to be. And here's my focal. All right, let's get the focal attached to the rest of this necklace. And again, using simple loops makes it a lot easier to attach the components, which is why I'm using 20 gauge, but also 20 gauge means that these links, the loops on the links, won't deform as much during wear as they might with like a 22 gauge. 18 gauge or 16 gauge would also be gorgeous on this. I just couldn't be sure that these beads would fit on an 18 gauge wire, but they fit great on 20 gauge wire. So we've got our focal, we've got our chain, and with this chain, we've already got a loop on one end, so I don't need to make like another loop. What I am going to make is I'm going to make a little beaded clasp with just a hook. So for that, we're going to grab one of these beads. I'm going to grab more of the wire. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and just make a simple loop on the end of this wire. Bending it that way and then bending it back. Just a simple loop so I can attach it to the chain afterwards. And then about, say 3, maybe 4, 3.5 inches away from there, I'm going to cut this off. That might actually be a little too long, so I'm going to cut there. I don't want my hook to be that long. And that is about 2 inches. There we go. That is exactly 2 inches. So let's close this for right now. I'm going to pop my bead on here. Scooch in and also move this out of the way so that we're not confused by that. Okay, so here's where it's going to be real funky. I'm going to take about the halfway mark in on this, which is it's about I should have done this with a longer one. I forgot about wrapping. Let's do this again. We're going to take a much longer piece of chain, or piece of wire. And I'm going to make a simple loop on the end. This is already flush cut, by the way. I forgot about wrapping. Sorry about that, guys. Let's do this again. Okay, so we got that. I'm going to take, let's just do 4 inches. Let's do 4 inches. That'll work. All right, and now about an inch up. That's where we're going to bend. We are going to bend this in half. Going this way. We can readjust the orientation of our loops later. So I bent it in half. And I'm just going to kind of keep going. Till it bends on itself. And this is the part that's a little fiddly because you want to get a nice, fairly sharp bend in this without really having it go wonky. So I'm very, very gently squeezing the end here. Very gently, because it'll twist like that. You can always straighten it out a little bit. All right, so here we have it almost here. I'm going to give it enough room for wrapping by grasping the longer part above the bead, and then I'm going to bend, bend it towards that. So that this bend occurs above where the bead is and gives me some room for wrapping. I want these two ends to stay parallel. So for that, I'm going to grasp this so that that stays exactly where it is. And I'm going to wrap down until I either run out of my wire or I hit this bead. Here we go. So now I have kind of a long double length here. I've got it wire wrapped here. I've got my simple loop on that end. I'm going to cut this excess. Tuck that in. And now I'm going to make myself a little hook. I think I'm going to use my 6-step bail making pliers for this, and I'm going to use this third down, so you've got smallest, second, third. It would be the fourth up from the largest size. And I'm just going to bend this around. Bend this back. I'm going to smush this down around here with my pliers to make this hook. This is not a perfect, not perfect, but it'll do. It will do. I'm just going to ploop that, my little end. All right, so now I've got a little hook. I can open one end of my, here, let's orient this correctly. Nope. Yes, perfect. So it's oriented the same way as the other. Now I'm going to attach this to my necklace, and my necklace will be complete. See, I can use a little hook when I'm wearing it. Let's back up so you can see a little bit more. So I have my spirally focal. I have my beaded chain. I have my hook and closure. And yeah, since there's already these big loops, I don't have to add like a toggle clasp or anything. Just added a loop and it's done. So pretty simple, pretty easy. Again, the big thing with these is being consistent with your loop size. And for me, the 6-step bell making pliers really help with that. I'm just gonna boop this a little bit more so that it lays flatter. There we go. So now I have my project number 4 in my beaded chain challenge. And for this, I used some beads that I had inherited from my aunt's bead stash that she had probably meant to take apart and turn into something else. So I was finishing what she started, just like with the other one. All right. Thank you so much for joining me on this. Next week, we're going to do one of the older bead boxes that has been neglected or that I didn't actually make anything with, and we'll do a bead woven component. So those are my 2 projects for next week. My bargain bead box, I thought it was going to be out for delivery today. It is not out for delivery today. It'll probably get here Monday. So I will do an organizing video then. But maybe tomorrow, I did buy another bundle from their website. So maybe I will do a little video showing what was in that bundle and some of my haul from my last purchase from them. And I think that's all for everything that I wanted to tell you guys about. Oh, also, Metal Scrapping Chick, that's her channel, her username Kim. She did a wrap-up video for the end of the week showing what she made, and she made some fantastic necklaces. Like, I mean, there's one of them that I'm just absolutely I adore. She grabbed this turquoise butterfly and she included it in her design, and it's really gorgeous. I will put a link to that in the description as well, so you can go and watch her little recap for her completion of the whole beading chain challenge for week 1. She's going to be doing recaps on Saturdays to show what she's been making. So we'll put a link to that in there. I'll put a link to the playlist for all of these other ones, and I'll also link to the other video that I made when I was making things with some of my aunt's things. So we can do that. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a great weekend, and if you are having fun beading chain or just watching me bead chain, let me know. I love comments. I love seeing, interacting with you guys. It's so much fun. Anyway, thanks. Bye.